Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake him up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still I wanna ball. Waking up meant that he gave me a chance and I'm rolling the dice. I do it all, living like I'm tryna go for the platinum trophy in life. Who can you call? Really nobody, so you should just follow me on your device. And know if she chillin' with me, then it's bound to be chemical X and the sugar and spice. Game in the system, but game is the hobby. I'm probably cocky, but hot as wasabi. I mean, if it's beef, then you know where to find me. My niggas is ready and so is my body. You should be running and telling your posse and what's in the speakers and what's in your potty. And she tryna kick it, but this ain't karate. Just keep that shit down while I'm watching Tsunami. I ain't saying I'm a super nerd, but I told you when we got involved, my idea of a perfect date is a PlayStation and some alcohol. I was role playing on GTA. I'm a good guy, but I got it all. If the world should end, be the first to leave, but the last of us acting naughty, dog. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Level up, level up. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough. Never lose, should've had better luck. I'ma wake him up from a slumber. Money ain't nothing but a thing, and the level ain't nothing but a number. Life ain't nothing but a game. Level up, level up. Never lose, should've had better luck. Tryna see a check, I'ma run it up. Yeah, I do a lot, still ain't done enough.
Magical things tend to happen. For some reason, I did not stop the music to the show. It decided, you know what? I'm done talking. I'm done. Dal said he was done rapping.
And we're live.
And we're live.
And we're live.
Happen.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make this thing happen on the go. What's going on, people? Family Tamer here from level1gaming.com. And thank you guys for rocking with us once again. If you guys have been rocking with us for a while, you guys remember I did a show last year. It was called Black Men in Gaming. It was very, very, very successful. We got into some very awesome topics. I believe it was around this time, if I'm not mistaken. At least I hope I did it around this time. But it was very, very successful. We got to talk to different people in the space, which was absolutely amazing. And today we're sort of doing that, but a little bit different. Most of the people from that show was specifically in the content creating, YouTube, gaming, streaming space. It was just that, right? But today we have that as well, but in different areas of the gaming space, which I thought was absolutely amazing to have. We're gonna a lot of different diverse people who are in the space but do countless amount of things. We got award-winning producers, awesome streamers. I mean, we gotta. I am so jealous because I would love to stream video games with my wife. Like I am jealous of that. I can't get her to play a single video game, and I am jealous of you too. We got people like Keith who also does what we do, has an amazing website, which I'm jealous because it's so freaking fast and snappy. But before we do that, I'm gonna get to introductions. I will introduce my brother, the communication director at level1gaming.com, Baron-J67. What's going on, Chief?
You know what? I am just so grateful
Communication director at Level 1
to have video game composers, developers, other journalists, and website hosts and runners. I can't believe I said that, but in this space is in one time. It's so dope. I'm hyped to be here. This is something special that I hope we can do way more of. And just to showcase what's going on from the Black perspective within this industry that we all love and take part of.
Now that the guy you should already know is out of the way, I will say this. If you guys are listening on Spotify or Apple iTunes, thank you so much. If you're watching via level1gaming.com, the replay, which we normally don't go live on Fridays, thank you guys so much. And then also if you are here live, as always, thank you so much. Before we really dive into each guest, I'm going to do some introductions. First, I'm going to start with, again, the couple that I'm absolutely jealous of. Husband and wife, game dev and streaming duo. Yin and Real, how you guys doing today?
We're doing pretty good.
Ma'am.
I'm good.
Oh, she say I'm good. I really appreciate you guys coming out and rocking with us today. Yeah, I do think we're going to have a heck of a few topics because you guys I'm really interested in because that dynamic is something special. And I really want to dive into that. Next up, my November 8th brother from another mother. Chase, what's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on? Happy to be back. Happy to see you. Happy to see everyone.
Y'all so short in your introductions, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
It's short and
And
sweet,
Chase,
right?
you've been here before.
Yes.
You can walk in the house, go in the refrigerator, kick your feet up, your family. You know what it is.
You know. Especially when you got this, when you share the same birthday, you know what I mean. So everyone's cool, everyone's great. I'm always excited to be on. Thanks again for having me on.
Hey, it's no problem. Last but definitely not least, our brother Keith from the Outer Haven, who has an amazing website, puts up some amazing content, and one of the fastest, snappiest websites I've ever been. I was in there earlier. I was like, man, how do you do this? Keith, what's going on, brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And I told you, and if I didn't tell you, I'm telling you right now, I will help you out. One of my big things as being an IT guy is share the knowledge because when I'm 6 feet under, it ain't coming with me. So,
Man.
You know what? That's something. Before we really dive into things, right? And you brought up a point that me and Baron talked about not too long ago, right? Is sharing knowledge, right? In our space, we would like to seek out people who look like us, right? And when we do that, we like to be able to share knowledge. Like I know Baron been a communication director at level1gaming.com. He's always getting different DMs from people, different emails, and what we like to do is to be able to share that information. Before we really go and deep dive into the questions that you guys, I do want to bring this up first because I think it's something that's very interesting. And I do want to start with you, Keith. Like, how do you feel in our space that sharing of information is at this moment? Like, where are we as a community with sharing information?
we're not there. We are not there. Unfortunately, we have way too many people in our space that have the same color as our face that just don't want to share their information. They don't want to share contacts. They're afraid of other people stealing their position. And I talk about this all the time to my friends and to the people at that Haven. It's like, this is garbage. This is not how it should be. And then every so often you'll see a post from somebody saying, why do we hate on each other? So we're not in a good position. We haven't been for quite some time.
No, I'm right there with you. You in there, real? Your thoughts on this? I know this is something we really didn't discuss pre show, but and I know you guys are lucky to have each other to go back to back and lean on each other. But as far as your experience in this space with other creators, how do you feel like we are, what have you ran into that wall of information not being shared?
Well, I have to go from like our perspective, which I don't think is the norm. Just because we just happen to luckily sort of meet certain people along the way. And I can name very specific people who have a very strong want and need to see other people and are that look like us that's black and in the gaming community, indie game community specifically, that like is really pushing and they're working in different places. Two people very specifically that helped us out when we first went to PAX. There was Sean Alexander Allen, and he was like really the only one, and it was really not a lot of people who were there that were black, but he came over there immediately and start basically telling people to come to our booth and pushing people to come to our booth and like, hey, look, check their game out. And he was there to push us there. And then as I was posting, and I was posting a lot, and the real support come in different ways. And you really can't just get it from these few people. And I would say Justin from the Mix and Black Voices in Gaming, he also was there to see. He seen us that we were specifically looking to uplift Black people with our content and to connect, and so he stayed with us and he gave us, and he's really like somebody on the front lines really pushing and trying to connect. But that's just two people that I can see. I can't say it's the whole community.
Yeah.
Just that, if you find those very few people, they will do that. But overall, because I also was like in the black indie comic scene as well, and the most I can say is that it started to get competitive. That's the word I'm going to use. Now there's an area there where there's people who really work together, but then there's times that I was sort of involved, but I wasn't involved in it because I didn't see it. I was actually in a point of mediation, but you can see that there was, a tension between certain parties in that group where one person was really trying to share and uplift, and this other person, um, I guess he was coming up with conspiracies and things like that to make it seem like somebody else was like trying to take things away. But the truth of the matter is, everybody was just trying to work together in some type of way. So I did see instances. I'm pretty sure that it's just not in our community where instances like this happen. But also, I do. I can see very few times, or for few people who actually have the pull in order to make those type of things happen. So
You did.
that's
You did mention Justin. I want to give him a big shout out. He was supposed to be on the roundtable tonight, but unfortunately, he got caught up with his flight. But like we met with Justin not too long ago, and he gave us some advice that like stuck with me and Baron.
Yeah.
Has been sticking with us for for a very long time. So I want to give a shout out to him. But Chase, before we really dive into the show, your thoughts on our sharing of information?
I have to say it's been pretty positive. I've just been thinking about my experience overall, and I'm very impressed. And because coming as a video game composer and being from the music industry, of understanding how folks typically carry themselves is not usually the case with the sharing part of it, but it might have something to do with my personality. It might have something to do with their personality, but overall, it's been solid. I'd have to say, and I'm thankful that the mentality is there to share, and because it only a rising tide lifts all ships, and so with everything that pushes positivity creates positivity, and so we can, and by the reciprocity that puts forth with me sharing only helps empower the rest of us.
Look! That's a nice nightcap you put on there, Chase. I like that. So with that being said, I do want to stick with you, Chase, because you are an award-winning producer. You are super very talented. But I want to know how you really got started in the composer space. Like you've done some amazing work in the space. I want to know, how did you really get that foot in the door?
Yeah, it's a bit of a two-sided story, but I'll keep it short and sweet. So initially, I was working at LensCrafters, and I'll just roll back just a bit. I had always been told my music sounds like it should be in a video game. Heck, even today, I was someone at the FedEx store, and someone didn't know me from anywhere, and I had something playing. They said, "Oh, was that?" And I said, "Yeah, that was mine." And they said, "It sounds like it should be in a video game." So it's just been happening for about 20 years. So I was working at an internet media company, and the person had said that it sounded like it should be in a video game. I looked into it. I decided I'm going to go back to school. This was around like 2006, 2007. And then from there, I got a job. I was working at LensCrafters. The colleague had an uncle that was working in a mobile game studio. And then I was an intern there while still being in school, relearning music theory and all those things. And so the company went under and the team split. I didn't want to continue with that team split because it didn't seem right. And so from there, I decided to find and do some research of my own, and went online and looked at how to write music for games. I found a book called The Complete Guide to Game Audio by Aaron Marks. I read half of the book. I submitted some of my work to a developer on a game development forum. I pitched that. I landed my first ship game, and it was paid as well. And that's how I got in.
The paid part. The paid part.
Yeah, the paid part is very important.
That
It's very fortunate.
no serious. For folks out there who don't know, there's a lot of work to be done out here in the space, but a lot of the times they are not trying to pay people.
Speak
So,
on that a little bit more, please. Can I turn you up on the volume?
getting to the money is, I don't think people realize like a lot of stuff in this space, like you're starting off in the red, like, and you might play in the red for a little bit before you're truly profitable, but you're in the red. I want to switch over to you guys because you guys are of course a streaming duo, you guys are a game developers, you guys have indie comics going, you guys have a lot going on. So I want to ask you guys how you came about being in the space and being in the space together. Did you guys meet in this space? Did you guys form that space together? How did you guys really get into this space?
Well, we met in Art Institute of Pittsburgh. She was doing game design and I was doing culinary arts. But we found that like when I started talking to her and I was fascinated at that how much she was into and how much she knew about games and stuff like that. So we started to sort of work together eventually on our games. We start working. She started working on hers. I started working on mine. She said mine sucked, and then I started working on hers. So then, so then, so then we started to develop it, and we got serious about it, and that's around when Kickstarter started to blow up. So we started to do our first campaign, and it failed. We did our second campaign, it failed. We did our third campaign, and it failed. And then we did our fourth campaign, and it was successful. So after that, then that's when we were able to go to PAX, and we were able to meet people, and then we launched the game in a state that we did not like, but we launched it. And then after that, we start working on other things, but we never quite got away from the universe that we were making called the Celestial Tier. The first game is called Celestial Tier Demon Revenge, and we're actually in the process of redoing that. Well, now I'm releasing that soon. But then we end up making a game called Celestial Tier Lost World, and it was supposed to be a very small, compact game that we can do in like a month or so. But then I believe we had it was a contest that came up that Fiverr, and then we joined that contest, and we were like semifinalists with Lost World, and we had a bunch of other games, but that's the one that came through. And then we didn't win, but it still opened a lot of doors because then when we made a pitch, during the pitch we had that it was part of that contest, and then we ended up getting a little bit of prototype funding to end up also making that. Between that, we were also working on different games. We worked on a game called Revenant Prince. We worked on some other Patreon games, and we worked on
Amori.
and she worked on Amori, which was a pretty big game.
Oh,
Yeah, in the JRPG
yeah.
JRPG community, and so and then we worked on a prototype for Lost World, and during that time, during the development for that game, we were developing a larger universe. We still were working on Demon Revenge. We creating characters and we create this large universe, and we end up making this thing called the Celestial Tier Experience, which was this app that had it basically was it's like a marketing thing that we're doing where we continue to add content to it of characters and items and locations and monsters, sort of like building a big expansive universe out of it. And we're actually going to release that soon as a website, and that's pretty much what we're going for now, was connecting games with comics. So the things that will be on our website would also be in all our games, and everything would connect, and it would be continue to grow as we're doing the episode of content that we're doing. Starting again with the game that didn't release in the state that we wanted to release in the first place, and that's pretty much where we are now, and that's how we got our start, and that's what we're going to be doing in the future. And then we like stream and stuff too, so that's the thing. Yeah. So
All fun.
yeah, yeah,
Our break time.
yeah, really, yeah. So we sort of between all that, when we're streaming, we're on break, because even sometimes we may throw some research games in there, and just to check out and get an idea of how some games do things well. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing.
So,
And
so with
what
the culinary background, I mean, I'm sure, like, if he loses or something, you make him cook you something nice because you know he got this.
He cooks me stuff every day.
Hey,
Oh,
that's
Every
it.
day.
It must be nice.
it must be nice.
It must be nice.
But it's not regular stuff. It's not regular stuff. Like
What's the special? What's the go-to?
the go-to now.
Okay.
Now it has become cannolis
Ooh wee.
and
Blueberry
blueberry scones with lemon zest frosting on top of it.
Hey, her palate is sophisticated. What you
It
talking
is
about?
I can't go in the kitchen and make I can't go in the kitchen and
She
make
don't want no nuggies.
Ooh-wee.
can't make a grilled cheese sandwich. I have to make
See-
I have to make a compound butter. feta cheese.
Ooh wee, not the garlic aioli butter.
Yeah, I can't be
Ooh-wee.
regular, man. Yeah, it's tough.
Oh my gosh.
It's
It,
tough.
it must be nice.
Fancy peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I already know.
That
Not going
palate
away.
is sophisticated. Nuggets. No, thank you.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
What you
Go get the
mean?
chickens. We're gonna do this from the bottom up.
Yeah,
And
from the ground up.
if it wasn't that, it would definitely be lasagna is her go-to favorite beyond all that other, the sweets and the baked goods and stuff. So lasagna that she definitely loves the most.
Oh, I'm not jealous
Yo.
at all. I'm not.
Jealousy. Next up,
Right.
Keith, my brother from the Outer Haven. I gotta ask you because we are virtually in the exact same space. Again, I talked to you earlier about the how I love your website and things like that. You going, but I want to know. Me and Baron, we got different avenues to get into this space, right? But I want to ask you, how did you get into the space that you're in, and how long have you been doing it?
Oh man, I've been doing this for about 11 or 12 years now, and I actually got into this 11 years prior to that. So I actually had made a website back in the day called shadowhaxer.net, obviously. And what that was is it was a website where I would take games, rip the music, and upload it. At that time, it was a gray area. People didn't really care. Companies didn't really care. And then eventually other people would start doing the same thing, and then soundtracks and things of that nature. And they would upload them, and I would host them. And I even had Nintendo come up to me and say, you know what, you're good. Just this game right here, you can't host this game. And I never had an issue for the 11 years I did this. And this is before other websites started doing the same thing. So during this time, a couple of people were like, hey, we all love the gaming. We should do a podcast. And I'm like, podcast? Who does podcasts? So, right? So we're like, all right, cool. Let's do a podcast. So we did a couple podcasts, and they were like, you know what? This is cool. We should do more than just a podcast. So then the website was born. Unfortunately, those people are no longer around. They left because life. But I decided I was going to keep the site open. I was lucky enough to come upon a couple of different people who were great. They're my core team. I love them to death. I couldn't do this site without them. And here we are.
Yeah, it's
Long story
important
short.
to have that core. Because I know here at level one, like one of our writers, his name is Daryl, and he is our he's one of our core, right? He does amazing work, and it's and I also get to how people in what we do. It's almost like a come and go. You're recycling, because I know at level one of the most important things for us is we like to say yes to people. We like to give people an opportunity, because a lot of places you go to in this space where you're looking to, like, hey, I'm opinionated and I have so much knowledge about gaming. I would love to go somewhere to where I can get people to see what I have to say, right? And one of the things I promised myself for level one gaming is I want to give those opportunities to people. I want to give people a chance to come over and say, hey, let me see what I can do. If I don't like it, oh well. If I do like it, what we've been able to build at level one is I can put you in, you oh, what a stutter. You want to sit next to developer A, you can do that here. You want to be in a room with publisher B, I can put you there. We're gonna do the work together, and I'm gonna give you the opportunity to do it. But you got to be able to put the work in, right? And I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with the sharing of information. A lot of people want to see you do the work. They want to see that you're really invested in what you're doing, because it's one thing for me to just pass out the keys. I gotta know you got a driver's license. I need to know that you can drive a little bit before I give you the keys to my car.
I mean, that's the same thing over here. But more than anything with the Outer Haven, we'll let anybody here. And I know some people will probably go, that's crazy. But say, for example, you want to get into the gaming journalism space. You know, you have no idea what this is all about, but you're like, hey, I want to talk about this game. Okay, great. You go to IGN or anywhere else to go. Do you have any experience? Well,
Nope.
No. Okay, well, come back with some experience and maybe we'll talk to you. You come here. It's like, look, Keith, I want to talk about games. I don't know how to write. I don't know anything about this. Okay, fine. We will take time out and we will show you how to write. It doesn't make a difference if you're experienced or if you've never written before in your entire life. We will come here and help you. And yeah, it has bitten us in the butt a couple of times. We've had a lot of people that come over to the site and they just came for the codes and they left. Or we had some people who were amazing, but we lost them to bigger sites.
Yep.
Or we lost
Same
them
here.
to lost one person to a developer. We lost one person to a really huge website. And it's like, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I will continue to bring people on until I stop doing it and somebody takes over. Because the big thing about the Outer Haven is we are your soapbox. You want to come here and talk about something? Doors open. Let's go. Let's talk.
Yeah,
That's
that's
doesn't
really
matter what it is.
important. We tell our writers a lot, write about what you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Write about what you're passionate
Yeah.
about, and we're right there with you. We've lost people to Bethesda. We've lost people to bigger
Earmarks.
websites. And one of the beautiful things about it is I always get a message before they leave. And they always say the same thing. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for giving me a chance where most people wouldn't give me an opportunity. Come here and build your portfolio. I'm really big on that. Come, and if we are nothing more to you than a step in the right direction, then I got a doormat for you. Come.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come get you in the right direction.
period.
It's pretty much
I think that's important.
that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
And I have-
Go ahead, B.
I'm sorry, I keep trying to cut Fame off.
No, you good.
Keith, how big of a Metal Gear Solid fan are you?
Well, the name of the website is
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
We had a couple of different names, but we were like, we're going to call it the Outer Haven. And somebody was like, but isn't that Metal Gear? Yes, it is. Let's go.
Yeah. Foxhound, run with it. No, but thank you, Kojima. No.
I mean, Konami hasn't come back. Konami hasn't come and said, hey, you can't use that name. So,
Yeah.
we've had it's really funny that you bring that up because we've had a lot of people come up and say, you know what, I'm going to name my website the Outer Haven now. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
We literally had one website and we didn't go fight them. We had all the Outer Haven domain names. We had .com, .net, and .org.
wow.
I let .com expire because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
.org expired because I wasn't paying attention. And then some website picked up .org and was using it. And I'm like, you know what? It's not my domain. It's not mine physically. I mean, I don't own that name. That's Konami and whatnot. So I can't really fight you over it. But if I wanted to, I could. But I didn't want to. It's trivial. We got .net. We're good. Everybody knows who it is. I'm not going to go fight you guys for that. It's silly. But one thing I want to see, did you guys ever experience anybody who just decided to just lift your content and just use it somewhere else?
Yeah.
That's actually a good question around the room.
Yeah.
Chase, you said yeah, so I'm going to give a short
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I mean, me being a video game composer, it's funny because it's a couple things. It's like it's this little small thing of you're flattered, but you're stealing my shit.
You're also you're pissed. Like, all right, I'm glad you did. It means I'm doing something. I'm getting somewhere, but that's mine. You took my
Right,
stuff.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah,
See-
someone ripped off my Tomb Raider rescore that I did. I didn't score Tomb Raider, but I did in earlier build portfolios. I did this a long time ago, and someone thought it was so good they ripped my demo reel and thought to use it for their own. I'm like, thanks, but that's not yours.
See, funny enough for me, I haven't seen it on level 1, but with my old personal YouTube channel, when I was going to get ownership of my name, it popped up that people were taking my videos, my reviews and trailer reactions and putting them into like hubs where people would pay and then have to like log in order to see this hub of content. And I didn't even know, I had no idea. It's just to see your face on other people's websites embedded in, and it's just like that's me, like that. And then I have to tell the government, no, that is me.
It is so frustrating because you got to go fight Google, you got to fight Microsoft Bing. You know, sometimes on YouTube, you got to fight YouTube, and it's just like, come on, man. They're like, what proof do you have? It has my face on
That
it.
is
What are
me.
you talking about?
Back before we
Because
started
we had
level
one cat-
one, I was at
Go
a
ahead.
different publication and I found an entire article I wrote on another website. Like word for word, bar for bar.
Plagiarism
Like,
off the yin-yang.
top to bottom. It was
That
a
is
complete
so
copy and
frustrating.
paste.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
Like
I
what can
hate
you
it.
actually do about it?
Because like you said, it's flattering, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man. Why are you going to take my stuff?
Yeah.
Not just my stuff. Anybody who's at this website, why would you go and do that?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But it was funny though what you said about the whole YouTube thing. We got access to King of Fighter 15 ahead of time, and they were like, you can put as much content as you want out there on YouTube. So I was like, all right, cool. So he started putting fight videos and stuff out there, and one cat got slick and decided he was going to copy everything off of there and put his channel. And I was like, excuse me, sir, that's ours. And then he was like, well, how do you know it's yours? Well, first of all, unless you have access to the game, which you don't, it also has my watermark in it. So can you not do it? And he was like, no, I'm not going to do it. So YouTube took care of that right quick. But you don't like doing that stuff. It feels like I'm being the bad guy, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? You bit me, so I have to bite you back. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the close. I think one of the things that was one I can think about. She just said that somebody had our logo.
Yeah.
And that was like,
indie rock band took our.
oh yeah, that's right.
Really?
That's right.
Our Facebook page, and they just rocked with it, and I was like, can y'all not?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then
And I never. So I don't know what I can do about it, but
we don't use that logo anymore, right? Or was it the?
No.
Yeah. The other thing that happened was, and I guess this is anybody taking it, but somebody asking to use our assets to sell on a store from out our game, and that to me,
That's like an insult.
that was insulting. That wasn't flattering. It was insulting because, you know, I don't want to get too much into it. It was somebody who we worked with before that had that was doing some funny practices with us, and they was trying to use that in order to end that situation, and we was like, nah, that ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? So that was an insult. Yeah, that has been resolved since, but you know, you got to watch out for who
And then
you
you know
work
there's
with.
the pirating websites.
Yeah, we
Our game
is somebody has our game on a website for how much was it?
I think it was like $800.
$800 for the key.
I
For the
don't.
thing here again.
I mean, I don't know, but
It's
it's
not
I
a
don't think it's being.
because it's not available currently on Steam. So the collectors go around, they get games that aren't on Steam, and they go around and they resell them. And I don't know if they're selling it for $800, but that's flattering. You know what I'm saying?
But you need to check as well.
Yeah.
But I think the value is that it's a game that's not available out there anymore, because you know people will come and our game is not available and they'd be like, the game is not available, can I get a key? And be like, no, but we'd be like, why would the hell they want a key on our game? You know what I mean? Like, why would they want a key on our game? So, and that happens quite a bit. We don't give the keys out, but then however they receive the keys, they put them up there for a lot of money. At least they're seemingly a lot of money. $800 a pop. I don't think it's selling for that much, but who knows, you know?
There's definitely a collector out there who wants games people can't get.
It's going to be worth
about that Wu-Tang album.
It's funny
Reed
to
Island
say
is
that,
real.
right? Yeah.
That's great. I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
Then they'll still have access to like the Steams.
Yeah, but the value of the $800
Oh
goes
yeah,
down because there's
paid
there's no
a bunch of money.
there's no scarcity anymore. Yeah.
Greed
So
Island.
which is weird, right?
Man.
So I do want to ask a question. I'm gonna move over to you, Chase. Even though you're a young man, what are you, 18, 19 years old, something like that?
Thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm really working on that 20 right now. So
if your younger self came up to you today and said, Chase, I need some advice. I'm stuck right now. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. But this is the place I want to be in. What advice are you giving yourself at the moment?
stay kind. This industry is very hard, but what got me, looking back, what got me here is I've always stayed true to myself, and I'm a very kind person. I also know to be consistent no matter what. And that's a really hard characteristic to maintain.
Yep.
But the consistency is key. So those are the two things I would definitely tell myself. Get started, don't wait, don't procrastinate, be a proactivator, not a procrastinator. Stay consistent, stay kind.
I like that. What about you, Keith? You get your younger self walking up and say, "Hey, man, I love Meta Gear, and I want to make a site. I want to be in this space." What are you telling yourself as the man you are today with the experiences that you have? What are you telling your younger self to do?
As much as I loved my mother, I would tell my younger self, do not listen to her. Do not listen to her when it comes to this. My mom was such a detractor when I was younger. It was like, don't do this. You can't make money playing video games.
Oh yeah,
This
I
is
have
going
that.
to amount to nothing. And then,
Yeah.
a couple years ago, it was like she came over and she was like, what are you doing with all this stuff? And why do you get this TV? What's all this stuff? Oh, this is stuff that people sent me to review, Mom. I'm reviewing this game, Mom. I'm reviewing this TV, Mom.
I
And
feel on
she goes, yeah, Mom. Yeah, thanks for that, Mom. I love you, but this stuff I could have been doing when I was younger. This is why, as much as my wife says maybe I do it too much, I enable my son. I want him to do whatever he wants to do. If he wants to be a streamer, I will help you become a streamer. If you want to program games, which he's into now, I will help you as much as I can, even though I'm not a big programmer. I don't know much about that, but I will do whatever I can to help him. So, yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I respect it, because if you look at in this space, especially, I don't want to necessarily say this is in art specifically people who look like us, but I think in general in the space that we're in, the space that we're tackling, when we were younger, this wasn't the cool space to be in, right? And most people thought it really wouldn't amount to nothing. But now the space that we're in is the number one entertainment space. It's the space that people will pretend to be in because they want to be next to it. They want to be a part of it. Right? It's bad. Like, I could be somewhere and there, and I could bring up a game, and they'll say, "Oh, such," and I'm thinking you yes, you were one of them. I thought you were one of us. So I'm a deep dive with you, and like I'm listening to your responses. I'm like, oh no,
Yeah, man.
Gave yourself away.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm right with you. I can't begin to count how many times people are like, "Well, it's just you're a geek," or because you like this stuff, or you like gaming. You should be outside playing basketball, football. I'm like, I can do both. I am doing both. What's your issue?
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I don't know how many times I would go to school and people would make fun of me, and I'm like, and I would love to meet with one of those people now and go, so, look at me now.
Yeah, how's it work for you?
I'm playing games. I work for a major ISP in this country. I'm doing well for myself. See what happens when you're a geek?
Yeah.
It's so nice, like, to get like even when just like media passes, right? That always like that never gets old to me when you get the email for, hey, it's like we just got I'm so excited for DreamCon, right? DreamCon next July, and we got their last year's media, we covered it, and we're gonna be doing it again this July. In Austin, right? But that's just such an amazing feeling. Like I'm really doing this. Like there are
Yep.
people or companies who recognize the work we're doing, and when we were younger, we may not have saw that vision. So you're right, man. If not listening to those, detractors when you're young is huge because you can
Right.
get into space, and
Right.
it's not easy. Everyone's not going to be
No, it's
ninja
not.
and be overnight. That's not going to
Yeah.
happen to everybody. But if you
Yeah.
put in the work and you have a passion for this, it can be huge. But I want to move over to Yin and Rail and ask you. You meet each other, not yourself. Y'all meet each other as younger person when you're younger, and they want to get into this space. So Yin, what are you telling younger Rail and vice versa? Like, I want to be in this space when I get old. What are you telling your younger selves?
Keep going, because I was already in it. And I mean, I guess I would say to him, like,
But you,
come to the dark side.
that,
We have
but that,
cookies.
but that's interesting. It's an interesting question because even when you say that, like when you first initially said it, I was thinking of just starting out in gaming, and I wouldn't have told the thing that I would tell myself. I wouldn't tell myself because I would not want to keep myself from making those mistakes that I learned from. I wouldn't tell myself to say, hey, make do smaller sprites, make a smaller game to start off, because then I wouldn't have went through learning the little bit that I learned about marketing when doing the Kickstarter campaigns. I wouldn't want to tell myself, and I just learned a lot from those failures, and I don't know where I would be if I did not hit those snags. I don't want to know where if we didn't hit the snag that we got, if we would develop this idea that we developed, and if we didn't release our game the way that we did the first time, it would not become what it have became today. So I probably would not want to take myself or her off the path that ultimately led us to where we are and made us stronger people, because the failures that you have pretty much create a callus for you, right? So if you and then let you know if you're going to be able to handle this stuff, right? So you will fail, and some people they fail and they quit, and there's times like if people did, if I can, most people if they would have failed on the campaign like we did, they would have called it a day, and then if their game release and didn't come out the way that they wanted to, they would have called it a day. So many people have done that. Most companies only release one game and they call it because it may not come out the way they want to, and that's pretty much it. And they don't like the stress of the industry and stress what comes to a game, because a lot of stress is coming with it. Because I remember when you talk about games being the largest entertainment thing, when you look at everything else, music is music, movies is movies, right? Games is movies, music, interactivity,
Yep,
right? All rolled into one,
that's a
and you
good point.
have developers that are trying to make
To do
these
it all.
experiences. And some people got too big game because they will see that and they're trying to do it, and it's not. And most people who say that they're doing it by themselves are probably not really doing it by themselves. It's really a good marketing tactic to say that you are, right? So it's at least for a long time it has been good marketing to say, oh, I made this game by myself. I think what's one of the movies that came out a long time ago? I think it's called Indie Game the Movie. And you'll see that not only were they not working by themselves, even though you said that they were supported by platforms and they were supported by publishers. If you to pay attention to the movie, like the guy who made Fizz, he was supported financially with the government in order to make his game. So when you go in and you look at these things, and it's really hard to make even the smallest experience is really tough to make, especially make good, because there's a lot of things that go into it. And yeah, so I would not tell myself I would want to make those mistakes, because I would have to go out and seek that information to be better and to develop the thing that and I like today, and I think that's why I would not want to change that path.
So that's just a long version of keep going.
Yeah, I guess.
Keep going. No, I totally agree. I know I've made so many mistakes in this industry early on that I felt like I needed to be a part of to be able to do what we're doing at level 1. So I totally get that. I would hate to be creating level 1 where we are at level 1, but being the person that I was then, right?
Yeah.
So I totally get that.
Yeah.
Those experiences mold you a
Yeah.
lot. But I definitely would tell myself again, keep going, because again, I talked about earlier, my wife doesn't game, but she's super supportive of what I do. It's never been where she felt like this was a distraction to to home life. Every once in a while I get put on somebody's 4-hour podcast and she's ready to choke me something crazy, but for the most part, she's super supportive in what we're looking to build and what we're looking to do. And that's like super important. So the past travel was difficult, but definitely enjoyable. But I do want to switch topics. No, go ahead, B.
Oh, no, I was gonna say just give it time, because my wife started with mobile games, which she still plays. Which I say she plays more games than I do because she has broken a 365-day login record. But she's playing Octopath Traveler on one of the kids' Switch, and she's loving it. Like,
she playing 2?
2
dropped today.
I told her 2 is coming out, or it's out, and I was like, I'm gonna get. But then she was watching me play Persona 5, and I was like, she's a therapist, and she like all that, and I was like, look, I got you. Like, it's coming up next. But
if she gets for Persona 5, you'll never see her again. Good luck.
I'm gonna tell you, I'm not gonna lie. There was a moment where I looked over and I thought I was talking to her, and she was looking down at the Switch, and I was like, "Hey, is this how it feels? Like, I don't like this too much. You're a little too busy with all that game stuff. No, but for me, if I could go back in time, I would tell myself start sooner, because I thought all of this was silly. I was like, nobody. My cousin, much love to Anthony. I love you more like a brother. Shared a room for years, but he told me, like, bro, you play all the games that people want to play or want to watch. Why don't you just stream it? I was like, nobody want to watch me play video games. Like, I was that guy, like, who was not for it. So I would tell myself, and then it would have probably saved me staying out of trouble and spending less money, because I would have just been in the house working on stuff.
You don't save money in this space. What you mean?
I save more money than what I used to be out there doing. Like,
okay.
But yeah. Like, it was trouble out there, but no. But yeah, so that's my thought. My bad.
Because I'm about to come right to you, right? Because it's
okay.
Because you're someone who I am also jealous of, because you have hair. Shout out to you for being God's favorite. A lot of times in video games, we're not represented very well, whether it's the characters or whether it's features. No matter what you think about this, and I don't want to deep dive into the other things that come with this, but one of the things I noticed with a game like Hogwarts Legacy, where the hair was very important, right? Like you said, I'm like, yo, like, I've never really seen like our hair be depicted in that way. Like, it's dope, right? B, I want to ask you, and like in particular, how do you feel how gaming depicts us now? Because it's not a lot of games to where we got Forspoken, which is on a bigger AAA style scale, right? And it got killed. For a lot of people, they're saying, well, it's the dialogue. When some people assume, hey, y'all just don't want to see a black woman as a lead character in the video game, right? That was a conversation. Whether you believe it or not, for some people, that was part of the conversation, right?
Sure.
So, B, I want to start with you and ask you, how do you feel we are predicted in that space right now?
I'll say it's like a double-edged sword that we'll get moments where it'll be great, like Forspoken. What other game out there from that I know of where you just see AAA title where you see a black woman who's obviously black on the cover of a game for a big publisher like Square Enix. Like that is so unheard of. At least from my recent memory. But then the other part is you see the first 20 minutes of the game, they give her this CIS like atypical criminal background.
Oh,
Like they
yeah.
couldn't come up with anything else.
Yeah.
Like they couldn't come up with any other isekai story that exists out there. She could have been cooking and mixed eggs and bacon together in the wrong way, and it opened a portal. There's a million ways. No, really, there's a million ways they could have got her into the other world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you pick the most derogatory, the most there's a word that's perfect. And I'm blanking and I think I'm hungry.
Stereotypical.
Thank you. There's stereotypical store background. And it I know plenty of people who that would have ruined the game for them right then and there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like and so in saying that, we're making progress. You know, you got Horizon Forbidden West with the deep dive with the hairstyles. You got Hogwarts Legacy. I wish they would have opened it up a little more so I can flare out my nose a little bit. But you know, they got the hair on point. We're making strides. Even Monster Hunter, they did some good stuff, but then they did a whole like gorilla and black people thing marketing. Like it was like a
Wow, really?
it was with Monster Hunter World. They did. It was like a bad market. Like they did a good job with the design, and then they did a stereotypical bad comparison, and they had to like backtrack. It was a bunch of drama around that, but that's why I say it's a double-edged sword.
I need to pay more attention to the chat. As Dallas has something funny, as we all know, because there are no black people in Final Fantasy 16 because black people don't exist in the world.
Oh, let's not get into that.
They said she was the lone black person for Final Fantasy
In the universe, in the Final Fantasy universe.
I don't understand how magic and dragons and beasts exist, but not black people. But that's here.
And then you take deities from people who are dark skinned.
Yeah.
Like Ifrits and whatnot, and then you say those people don't exist. Like, don't like, come on.
That was a weak ass excuse if I ever heard one. Sorry.
And it was a long winded too.
Yeah,
Like, it wasn't just like a phrase. He gave like paragraphs and pages.
That's a long way to say I just didn't want black people in my game. But Keith, while you're here, man, I do want to ask you your thoughts on the depiction on where we are in this space right now as far as how we're predicted, not predicted, how we're shown in video games right now.
There is still a long way to go. If anything, for Spoken, it shows that we're still not we're not there. As much hate that game got, and some of it was because the story was just whack. But then I really think that a lot of it. I really think a lot of it was, you got a black female as the lead character. I mean, it was like, come on, you got to stop this.
Yeah.
But going back to games like Monster Hunter World and Elden Ring and some of my favorite games, right?
Yeah.
And when you go make the character, I made a video about this for Elden Ring and Monster Hunter World and did articles on this. And it was like, look, the black hairstyles are whack. Where are they? You know, Capcom eventually turned it around because we actually got a hold of one of the Capcom community members and like, look, we're sorry, we apologize, blah, 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 blah. And when Iceborne came out, there was all these different black hairstyles. Like, okay, great, good job.
There you
right?
go. That's what it was. Yeah.
And then you go back to Elden Ring, and I did an article on this in a video, and everybody's like, well, it was a Japanese fantasy game. Why do you think black people exist? And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like, is it really this? Is it really that bad that you don't like black people, that you got to make up some lame excuse? I'm sorry for getting so passionate about this, but it really upsets me. People are like, why do you care? Because, like, look, I am black. When I play a game like this where I can make a character, I like to see the digital avatar look like me. I did another video about recently. What was it for? It was for Wild Hearts, which I love. I did a video on that. I did a video for a black male and a black female, and right out the jump, why just make a black guy? Why you make a black female? And I was like,
Really?
you know what? Go play any other game and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
I literally had to bite my tongue because I was like, I'm not super well known, but you know how you say one thing and it just ruins you. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say what I really want to say. But the representation is just not there. It's not there. Companies either don't want to spend the money or they don't think it's going to work. I still don't understand how Forspoken got made. I really don't understand. It was like, look, we're going to do this.
You notice it wasn't really marketed. Like, I rarely saw anything about Forspoken. We talked about it. I think we talked about Forspoken's marketing more than Forspoken was marketed. That game was built to die.
Yeah. It was like it was like a pump and dump. Like
right? So it'd be like this game did not meet our expectations, so we're not going to do anything else for the game because Square Enix loves doing that. They love throwing games under the bus.
From a journalist, what's what I love about this panel, right? From a journalist to actual developers. I would love to, because when I brought this up, I saw y'all eyes kind of light up, right? I would love to get y'all's thoughts on where we are as far as being, how we're shown in games, whether it's from the characters themselves, the background, the hair. I would love to get your guys' perspective being developers yourself.
Well, when I when I got the question in the PDF, I was having a hard time finding examples. As soon as you said that about where the black culture that I know, that the respectable black culture featured in anything, and the one place that I really had to pretty much pinpoint, and I just pinpointed. I guess it was a moment which was I'm give a Final Fantasy example, ironically, which was what's his name from Saz with his relationship with his son, and I'm like, oh, that's black culture to me, right? So that to me, I'm like, that's where. But going back to what we're talking about, I look at it in a couple different perspectives, right? Because when we talk about black and we talk about what's for black culture, to me, are we talking about a global representation for us, or what does that do for our culture financially, right? Because if we're talking about what it do for our culture financially, then we're looking for the people who are black that's getting paid for making this content, regardless of the color, skin, and the character or anything in it. As long as they're making money, it's going to our culture, which can benefit our culture in that way. Make people who make those games good. And the other thing is
make more games.
And make more games and make, and the other thing comes to the representation, because when people talk about representation, they really don't talk about what it means. Representation means in all media, whenever something is out, the perception of your culture is depicted in any type of media, rather than movies, music, games. So the type of content that you are going out there and paying for and that you're rooting for is going to be the type of content that globally that's going to represent who you are. So a lot of people in our community, if you would say that question, we all know the game that they would have been referred to from the jump. And I do not think that Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is a great depiction of what black culture is, because that's not a great representation of who we are globally. So when you say that, I immediately know. When I read the question, I know, because people will go like, "Oh wow, I wish somebody black make a game like Grand Theft Auto." I said, I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 'Cause that's not going to be what is going. But will people purchase it? And is that what people are going to buy? Because I look at it on the spectrum, going back to being a game developer.
Yes. Because they see us in that light.
Absolutely. But it's also because of the spectrum of what people buy. There's two things, and I put them at the edge of the spectrum, and these are going to be the things that people most likely going to buy. They're going to buy things that are death and violent, and they're gonna buy things that have love and sex, right? And then between is where the further you go in the middle, the more your content has to be of high quality. So I'm going to give you the cheapest things at both ends because I can sell that to you easily, right? And anything else, and the further I get to the middle of that, the more money I have to put into it to make spectacle and make things exciting and make them fun, right? And going back to the one of the companies that I can say that for sure that goes closer to the middle of is and stay safe is the Final Fantasy franchise. They put so much into their spectacle. They put so much into their cutscenes and everything. They put so much money into it, but they stay away from those other two things on the other side. And they're more about being available for everybody, even though they have some pseudo religious things and some of. But so when you go and you look at the type of content that people actually are going to purchase, it's not really based, to me, in my opinion, it's based on that spectrum that they're going to go to those two sides. So I don't really see, from the original question, anything very specifically that represents our culture. And then for these companies, that's the other thing, is if I'm not going to the thing that you are already used to buying as a culture, I'm not sure you are going to purchase it, right? Because of what you already put into what your dollars already shown that you made. So you have to have an example of something that dived into your culture and that made into your culture that was positive, that made a lot of money, and they will invest in that. And we have seen that in the NBA franchises and the Maddens. So when you do see these things and you say, where are these things? It's where the money's at, right? And if the money ain't there, it's not going to be made.
Let me ask you a
So
question.
that's pretty much my feeling about that. When it comes to like we have to take responsibility as a culture to say no, we're not going to purchase these things, and that we want these other things and then we can't even ask people outside our culture to make it. Number one, because they don't know what that is, obviously, right? So we have to go to the people who are actually know it and who are going to make it well. And in order to do that, we kind of have to fund it from the ground up. So who these other developers out here who are black who can do it, you have to take the product that they're able to achieve now, and then you have to grow with them. It's not going to happen overnight in order to achieve what you want culturally. It's like the same thing that we're doing now, and we say all the time about building wealth. What do you call it? Type of wealth that you build, that's your kids going to have.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth.
Generational wealth in the culture, and that hasn't started to me. Really started as a movement for us yet. That's my
I know
opinion.
Keith had a question he wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I was just curious. When you were talking about the spectrum, just
Yeah.
curious. What do you think? Where do you think Spider-Man Miles Morales fits into that? Because I think that did a decent job.
Yeah,
of
I think
representation.
I think that did a good job. That was definitely spectacle. There was a lot of money, but also it was already the game, everything, the assets and everything was already made in Spider-Man. This was just a game made on top. They didn't spend a lot of money on it, right? So
Designs,
it was
everything.
all the game. They made it add a few more. They may have added a few more mechanics. It's basically that Spider-Man. That's why they was able to turn it around so quick. Spider-Man, that game took years and years to make. Miles Morales was a quick turnaround, and then I believe they even turned around and did the PS5 version of that Spider-Man game as well. So the resources for Miles Morales, it wasn't a lot. So it was already there from Spider-Man. So that's what I see from that. That engine, the way he moved, the combat, the traversal, the AI, everything was there. So they just sort of reskinned it and called it Miles Morales and did a couple of new things. It was dope. It was cool, but in that spectrum, it's definitely in the spectacle of it, further away from but it was from the Spider-Man game that they already had made.
Already
Yeah,
established.
it wasn't like they just said, let's make a Miles Morales game, and they made a Spider-Man game. It's like, oh, we got Spider-Man. We might as well throw Miles Morales on top of it.
Obis
Already
in the chat, he said it best. He said Miles is a mod.
Yeah,
That was
it was cool though. It was cool. It definitely was cool.
You're muted.
Sorry.
Oh,
Not to go down this rabbit hole because it is a rabbit hole. The thing with
Yeah.
Miles, he gets the stereotypical trope of he's just his mom because his dad is gone. Even though he died, he's gone. And Ironheart the same way. Ironheart just with her mom because her dad died from gun violence. It kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with Forspoken. There's always this trope that gets thrown into black characters. You see with Forspoken, you've seen it with Miles, and you guys are going to see it again with Ironheart. I know Ironheart was recently introduced to a lot of people for the first time in Wakanda Forever. But when she gets her own show, guess what? You're about to see a dad die due to gun violence because she grew up in the ghetto. Like that trope is a forever lasting thing that we just can't seem to shake.
But that's like it's because it's the easy thing. Like you have to bring shock, awe, and intrigue within a character's origin. So a lot of times, like you have Peter Parker's his mom died. In the Marvel movies, they had Tony Stark, his dad and his mom got killed. Captain America didn't have any parents. There's just tragedy is just easy, and death is easy to get people invested into a character because it's cheap. It's hard to be original. It really is. It's hard to be clever with writing, and it takes time.
I would try to make a Blue Marvel game. That'd be awesome.
Oh man,
that would be
the world's not ready for Blue Marvel. I think he would be too powerful for people to accept on the bigger market.
Definitely was in his own comic.
Yeah, and in the comics, I think in a live action adaptation and I don't think people are prepared for that type of power.
I'm sorry, not Blue Marvel.
Because I mean, I just don't think people are quite ready for that because we're gonna be fighting over this thing. Oh, he's stronger than such and such. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. As a matter of fact. But Chase, I want to swing over to you.
Mm-hmm.
I want to swing over to you, Chase, because I do want to ask you a question, and in particular to your field in the game industry, right? What are some actions? Let's say someone is listening today that they can take in order to better support, people of color, black people in the space that you're in.
Sorry, Fame. I want to kind of before I answer that question, I want to kind of bring up a couple games that I did see depicted that I actually grew up with.
Oh yeah. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Skill.
Right, so,
No.
I'm so skill.
No, it's fine.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's okay. So I'm thinking about I own a lot of games. I own about 800 physical copy games in my collection. I'm a curator collector at heart, and there's a reason I'm really in this industry. I'm passionate about it. There's a reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so I grew up with different games that span a different versatile style of what has been depicted. So I'm going to name some names, and they might sound familiar and it may not sound familiar. Okuji the Heartless on PS1. If you're not familiar, really different tribal type of game. It's a deep cut, different style type of game, but really, really interesting. Shadow Man, we can kind of be on the wave of what that is, and it's another PS1 game. Starhawk, even that came out on PS3. His brother on the cover. Battlefield 3, I remember that. I got the Walmart thing. I framed that because it was just a little bit different in its style. I'm not sure if you actually play as that character, but I have a feeling that you do. And then Orin, which is an African developer that created about that Pora type of culture and style for things that was of a hero, not necessarily like a Black Panther, but in its own right of storytelling. And then we got other games that we also probably forgot about, but it's in its own microculture of things. Get on the mic, where you're rapping against 50 Cent and Method Man, and you're doing those things. And then Def Jam, Fight for New York, Vendetta, etc. Right? So we've had a breadth of representation, so to speak, before Forspoken, and I think it's important to just put a pin on the history that's come with it. Has it been consistent? No. Does it exist? Yes, it does. And so at least there's something, and yes, we have more work to do, but at least from the PS1 era of things, I have to say it's interesting to see that it's at least started from back then. Now, on top of which, how does that highlight in terms of the support? Well, you could actually go buy those games and don't pirate those people games and sell them for NFTs for $800 like Make It Greed Island over here, because that's not supporting. When I have a pre-order out, you can talk about for the game that I'm writing, you could talk about the developer that I'm with, and then if I did a video, promote that video, buy the pre-order, share it when it's Bandcamp Friday, support the actual album, and put your money where their mouth is. Vote with their wallet, right? Because we're voting for we're spending on money for everything else, but we're not enacting. And so it's a lot of lip service that says, yeah, we're down for diversity and inclusion. But then when I tweet about something that is supporting in that way, with it being financial, which is what helps promote more work for us and to help build on other things, when we always talk about, well, why it came in? Because the resources aren't there and no one is acting with those resources to help push that forward. So when it's not just about sharing, it's about actually sometimes putting a little bit of money behind it and also sharing on top of which, and breeding the most powerful word of marketing is part of marketing is word of mouth, and putting something behind that. So you have to do both. It's a little bit of work, but it takes a village. And with that village, things happen. It's just, that's why I can see the support happening most of all.
Okay. Keith, I want to swing to you and ask you the same question. What are some immediate actions that someone who's listening now, listening later, can do to better support, people who look like us in the field that you are in?
Just listening to somebody. If somebody reaches out to you and they have a question about what you do, or if you have any tips to help them better themselves, just reply back. Even if you don't have time, say, look, I'm sorry, I don't have time, but let me point you to someone who may have time to talk to you, instead of just blowing them off completely or not even answering the email. That's way too much of that stuff happening right now. Just one simple thing.
Can you repeat that, please?
No, it's better than ignoring.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'll take the no anytime.
Please just tell me no.
Just tell me no. Tell me
no. So I can leave you alone? Because I know there's somebody out there hearing this who's tired of me.
Yep.
I know you've seen my emails. I know you've seen the CCs. I know you've seen it.
I know you opened it.
Like, come on, man.
I won't mention who or what company it was, but I've literally emailed them once a day for an entire month. No reply back. Now, if you email me a day, every day for a month, I'm going to go, look, stop emailing me, or something that
something.
But, just listen. Just listen and respond back. That's it. I don't know how many times somebody emailed me and asked me a question. I'm like, look, I don't have the time. But there's a group here that can help you out. Talk to them. Or if I do have time, I will hit you up later and talk to you. There are so many people right now on Twitter that just hit me up and go, hey, I have a question about such and such. And I literally will go, look, I don't have time, but I will reply back to you. And I've literally done that. And I've made some cool connections that way. So just respond, listen and respond. That's all you got to do.
B, I want to ask you the same question.
I was going to say in the chat, Destiny, go find Black developers and wishlist their games on Steam, share their tweets. That's something I found out. I didn't understand how important wishlisting was until dealing with some indie folks and found out it's a very huge thing.
It's a big deal.
I do want to say before you go, because I know in particular we talked about. I know the question is more about listeners, but I know me and you have talked personal about one of the things that we can do to help people like us in the space is to work more unilaterally. And I'm guilty of always looking up, always climbing, and I'm not really paying attention to what's right in front of me. That like there should be no reason why this is the first time I'm looking Keith right in the eye. Like this should be the first time like the connection and work should have always been there, right? And I think that's something that we can do better, is to look at the people that's right in front of you and say, hey, how can we support each other? Not just the people who are listening, supporters, the subscribers, the readers, us in general in the space. How can we do that? It's by again, I got Keith right in front of me. We're in the exact same space. There's no reason why we can't work together, collab on stuff, promote each other, help each other, and lift each other up. But go ahead, B.
And you know what? It's a trip, right? Because I see folks in the chat, like I see Luke, and
Love Luke.
that working lateral is it's very important. And you, because you see waves of people, like for a long time, and I still a firm believer in this because it just is what it is. You see a lot of the same folks doing a lot of the same things.
Mhm.
Anytime something big comes along, it's the same wave of people, especially within the Black community. Um, and they constantly bounce back and forth between each other. And I get it, because we know we don't want to lose any of the money, we don't want to lose any of the brand opportunities. So when you're recommending somebody, you're most likely going to recommend somebody, like, hey, Fame is the guy to hit up. Like, I'm not going to recommend Chase, but I'm recommend Fame. Like,
Yeah.
and I get it. I get it, because the vouch in the Black community is one of the biggest, the most important things ever. Like me saying, "Hey, Chase is cool." Like,
Yeah.
I'm picking on Chase, but me saying, "Hey, Chase is good people," that carries enough in a room to where you'll take a chance, if you cool with me, to deal with Chase. And so knowing how important that is, I feel like we need to utilize that superpower a little more often. So I was listening to, I don't know if it was Larry Favors on Sirius XM, Urban View. I forget exactly who it was, but they were like, anytime I go to something, I always ask for a second seat. If they ask me to speak, I ask if I can bring someone else. And I feel like I'm veering off. Am I answering the question? What was the question again? Am I? Well, I'm gonna keep going because I feel like I'm.
Immediate actions that
Oh,
people
immediate
can
actions.
take in order
Thank you. I
help
just wanted to
support.
make sure, because I can
Yeah.
rant. Immediate actions.
Let's
What
take
folks
it.
can do. Yeah. Hey, no, because I felt like I was going on one. But immediate actions is engaging with people's social media. If you see it, it costs you nothing to like it. I get it. If you don't want to mess up if you're a bigger branded person and you don't want to mess up your brand page, fine. Just at least like it. Because by you liking it, that alerts everybody else who follows you that you just like something, and it won't necessarily be stuck all over your front page, but it'll mean the world to us. Subscribe. The subscribe button, I don't know how and why it turned into this virtual currency for people. Like,
Man.
people are afraid to hit that subscribe button. It's the weirdest thing.
Like it's
The
cost
like
something,
button.
right?
Man,
Gotta
you
change the name from subscription to something like just
yeah, hey,
support.
actually,
It should say
that actually,
follow on YouTube, because
yeah, that actually is a good point. That's funny.
Yeah.
I never thought of that, but
Yeah,
that is a
yeah.
good
That
point.
makes sense.
But serious, subscribe, like, engage, bare minimum wish list. Like, it, those are immediate things that are life changing for us on this end of whether it's creating, developing, composing, writing. Like, that is an immediate, like, it means the world to us. If I could get a tweet out there with 100 likes and like 15 retweets, I'm winning. Like, it just and it's
and that's
crazy because
without
that's,
Twitter Blue.
yeah. Oh my gosh. But no, but you get what I'm saying? Like, those are not astronomical numbers. We see 1,000 like tweets all day.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm saying 100. Like, that would be game changing. That's something I can go to one of these companies and be like, look, this is why you should give me this code 2 weeks early instead of a day early.
Yeah.
Like, or the day
Wow.
of.
That hurt. I feel that.
Oh, major title we had been following. I don't want to call them out, but a major title we had been following and writing about for months before it even reached like big media, going back and forth with PR teams. They gave us the game 13 hours before launch. And I want to say we had been covering them 6 months before. And
I feel
Dallas knows who I'm talking about.
I definitely feel your pain. You get it
Yeah.
13 hours ahead of time, or maybe after.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we had that. That was
I love when
recent.
that
We
happens.
had that recently.
Happens all the time with us. Well, I'm like, I'll say, hey, look, we covered this game. You said you're gonna hook us up. You didn't hook us up, and I don't want to go any further on that. But I buy the game for the staffer, and then the next day, oh, here's your code.
Oh, in the journalism space, I'm so
Oh,
afraid
I just
of.
bought this code. I
Yeah.
can't get it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh Lord.
And I'm
Okay.
not saying everybody deserves a code. Like
No,
when people are working, or like what they say, hustle, show your hustle, and
Yeah,
I'm gonna say the wrong thing. You'll be rewarded. Really? We gotta
yeah.
talk about this. I don't know about that.
yeah.
Shout out to the last second reviewers across the world. We recognize your pain. Yennefer, I want to move over to you. I want to move over to you both and ask you the same question. What are some things that people can immediately do, immediate actions they can take that are listening in order to better support, you guys or people that look like us in your field in particular?
Well, like when you said that, um, I when I thought about the question, I sort of took a different angle. Like, because the thing about the wish list and stuff like that is that you can't wish list my game if you haven't never seen it, you
Or
know,
have no intention
or
of
have
purchasing it in the
yeah.
first
But at the
place.
same time, if you've never seen it, right? So I think for us developers, because I spoke to this before about when developers release a game, they're not working alone. They usually have some sort of PR marketing team working behind them as a publisher, because there's a difference between a game that you just released by yourself and you did the little bit of things that you could do to get it out there, and then somebody who has the pull to go straight to the media and can pull the people in the media and have their contacts to be able to get your game out there. Now, it's so when you don't have those assets, I have to get my content to you. So when you said the question, you can do that. I think that's great for you to do it. You like and share, but you have to see my content. Going back to when we talk about these social media platforms, so we have to be better at that. At least in our field, like we have to be better in order for you to actually see what we're doing. We have to be better at doing that. For example, um, if uh, if we had a game that you wanted to wish list, I mean, we had a game that we need you to wish list and things like that. Um, and we were on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or something like that. You wouldn't see it, right? Only the people who see it is other developers, other artists, or other people in the gaming industry, right? And that's who really are seeing it, not customers. The customers come from after you actually release the product, and now they're following you because your product is released, and now they're coming to interact with you on those platforms. But if you have not done that, your social media account, especially specifically a lot of people like to do Twitter and things like that, or really like musicians who want to make music on your game, artists who want to make music on your game. I'm pretty sure you guys got emails from people who want to do art for your streams and who want to do logos and stuff for your
Oh
stream.
yeah.
And those are the majority of people who are following you. You need your customers, and that's usually dealing with, at least in the game development circle, you have had something that they enjoy and they're following you, and now they're a fan and they're going to be a part of your next product launch. So for us, it's really, we have to put out the content and we have to put the quality content. Then we can say, come wish list this, come buy it, because we have to make it available through other people who actually purchase these things, or who are communities to purchase these things. Because you could do things on Reddit, you could do things on Instagram, stuff like that. You may have some success, but most of the people you interact with are people who are just doing what you're doing. So that's pretty much what and other than wish list the game or follow the social media page to see what that developer is doing, or follow them on YouTube and stuff like that. But if you have no content to keep them there, it's going to be tough. So I think there is a point to make for us as producers to make sure that we do have content as we
So it's a
yeah.
two-way street.
It is
Is
it's a
basically what
two-way
you're
street.
saying. Like we have to put
Yeah.
our stuff out there so they can come,
But I think
like,
that
share, follow, all
but
that
it's
good stuff.
not in
Meet the
no
people where
way.
they at.
Yeah, and that's why I love YouTube for this reason, because YouTube is more like it's when somebody does no matter how big, how small, the video your content on the YouTube channel becomes a commercial, right? So if somebody was to play our game, it could be a small YouTube channel. Let's say they had like 1,000 people that's going to come watch the video, right? They play it. That's a commercial.
Mm,
You get
mm-hmm.
another small one to 1,000. That's another commercial. You keep piling up with how many thousands and thousands of people that come. Those are commercials. Your trailer is now your content, but you have to have something for them to make action about. It could be wish lists, right? But it's more. But still, that's work that has to be done beforehand. And then the question is, especially when we're talking about our community, will what you're doing reach our community? And I think that's the other thing about it. And then that's the other question. How do we reach our community? And that's another big question. Like we can say about the things that we produce and what we do these things match up for how the algorithm works with generating views and generating responses for our community? And if we don't know that for sure, I think that's something that we need to find out as producers. How do we get to that community? And then here goes the other question, the double-edged sword. We want this content to go to the community, but then you also have to ask your question, is there enough purchasing power to dedicate those resources directly there in order for you to have success? You know, so you have to really look at those things, because I think the whole idea is that, you know, you don't want to give people something that they don't want unless it's a culture change. And the culture change is, I want to support this because I want to support you, not necessarily your product. And that's something that can't be done overnight. So that's when I look at it, it's like, is there enough val, val, validity to dedicating your resources to narrow in on that? Because I think another thing that we think is, if we do this product universally, that we're going to hit that demographic. We may hit some, you know, but we may not hit the demographic like we want to hit it. So I think what we're really talking about is a cultural change, about a mindset that we want to support black the black culture, not necessarily support this product. Because if we don't like the product personally, we're not going to support it. So I
No,
think
that's
that's
facts.
those are things that I think about when we talk about that. As yeah, in general, because you know, when we look at the purchasing power, and we talk about that all the time, about what a lot of people talk about all the time, about what and I'll say this in particular, and I believe we all know that people in our community usually like luxury items. They want the best of the
I
best. They
need
want
them
top shelf.
J's. I need that Cadillac. Yeah.
Dude, so your small indie game, or your niche game, or your artistic game may not fit, or your coach, or your game that deals with this particular type of. They may root for it, but will they purchase it? And is your efforts worth it going there? Not saying that it's not.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is that those are the questions you have to have business wise, and saying, well, if this what I'm doing, is it worth it? Yeah, so I sort of look at it, because it's another aspect of it, and I'm talking a lot. And this is one more point, because what you do and your efforts for a lot of people may not necessarily come off the way that you think they're going to come off, because you put your positive game out, and to a large group. So some people, it may be corny, you know, it may be square, right? Or you may be looking like, to them, like an Uncle Tom, whatever type of content that you put out. Because I mean, this one time somebody seen it, we had a very colorful cast of characters, and character like, people like, why everybody not black? You're cool, you know. So there you may come across those type of things as well. So it's not saying that could be people troll like that as well, but you
Yeah.
do have to consider what messaging that you're getting out, and if there's an audience for that. So yeah, that's my I kind of went off topic as well,
Yeah.
but yeah, because that idea of immediate action is a culture change. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say. Particularly when she was working on Omari, and the the lead developer, the creator was where's she from?
Asian.
She was Asian. That Asian, that's broad, but she was Asian. And when and you will see that, even when in her community, in her direct community around there, they would come and support her at at different stores in different locations.
Pop-up shops.
Pop-up shops. Like they would open up pop-up shop for her, and they would come there and support her. She would run her demo. She would sell
Lines.
T-shirts,
Wow.
and she would do that. And that was particularly in her community. That was their culture to support each other. Right? And I hate to use different communities to do that, but that was different. You know what I mean? It was nothing but that culture going out there to make sure that she was going to be successful. But to see it and to be a part of it is different than just hearing people say it. And you look at that like, oh man, that's different. You know what I mean? Like I never seen that before. You know what I mean? So it's a culture change that would need to be happening. Like we are supporting you as a Black person. We don't, not necessarily the product that you're making. So that if immediate change, that's not an immediate change, is a change in culture to support the people who are making these products.
And in that, you know what I hear?
Mhm.
Go buy the game.
Go buy the game.
Go buy the sound. No, because and then I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna let Chase talk.
Yeah.
That is a huge thing because I'm avid about that. I got plenty of friends who create music. I got friends who create films.
Yeah.
I have friends like I spend the money.
Yeah,
Regardless if I'm gonna watch it, regardless if I'm gonna listen to it,
Absolutely.
because I understand, like I can't sit here in the creator space
100%.
and sit here and tell people like, subscribe, this, that, and the third, and I'm not willing to spend $10.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to spend the $20. I have a friend of mine, shout out to Mr. Doja over at Grim Reality Entertainment. I bought his baseball card. They made baseball cards for all the artists. I bought it. I got it up on my wall right now.
Yeah.
He's torn and everything. Like I think it's the dopest thing on earth.
Yeah.
And it just, but you have to spend the money. You have to invest into it. I mean,
y'all ever see?
Yeah.
Y'all ever see?
I was gonna say, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I would say even to that is just people who you, and I'm not saying that it's not necessarily you wouldn't do it with people who you don't know, but people who you have a connection with. Like even when I had a cousin who was doing, even my brother was running the football team. I supported him there. I had a cousin who was got into MMA, and he was a boxing. I said, I threw down money for that, and it was people that were close to me who were doing these things, and I just would do it but it's also because I know that it's happening. You know what I mean? And I also am confident where the resources are going, and I want to see that person grow and do well. But that can't be on a personal, just in my circle. It has to be almost
across the board.
Yeah, across the board
100%.
with whatever connects to me. What we can support. I've supported numerous Kickstarter campaigns, in comics and in games to see, just see these things thrive. It's just things that I come across, but I have to also admit I was looking for these things, right? They didn't just land there, right? I look for Black comics because I see my son, he picked up a coloring book and looked at this coloring book and asked who is this Black guy in the back of this Marvel comic. It was just Black guy and he didn't know his name. So I'm like, okay, we got to go find us some more characters. But the characters, because that's another thing, now I'm going on another thing, about culture, that the culture was in the comics. And I can give him the culture and the comic character about a guy in Memphis who went to a clinical trial, and because he was low on money and he ended up with powers, and then the government treated him like he was a monster, and they didn't really treat him like everybody else because he was Black. And then I look with this guy. He was a young guy in school, and he was just trying to get through school, and he was trying to be an artist. And his favorite food was burritos. And he had this thing with his girlfriend where he was being a superhero. and she didn't like what he was doing, and she was getting mad at him, and they broke up because of that, right? So I'm finding these books and things, and even about this other one about this dystopian thing called Purge, which was a comic that was made way back in the day that was competing with Milestone or those things called EMEA or something like that, and he brought it back, and it's like this sci-fi futuristic black superhero in this cyberpunk city, and it was cool, right? Cyberpunk thing, it was really cool, and I gave them these because the stuff that they were producing mass in the mainstream media wasn't great content for my kids to have some representation or some hero to look up to. So it's not like that in games as much.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So when you go and you look at their content, and you go and you say, are people looking for what I'm trying to do? You know what I mean? Instead of, because we can be creators and we can be looking for, because we're doing something, we're going to be looking for other people who are doing something as well, right? But is the consumer doing that? Is somebody who isn't in this doing that, and what are they doing, and how can I get to them? And then the other question again is it worth it? Right. So yeah, that's kind of what I see in the whole thing.
Have you
But-
guys ever
but yeah.
seen the Chappelle show when the guy runs up and he's like, "Got to hit that wrap it up button"? That's what's happening behind. It's happening. It's happening. So unfortunately, we are out of time today. I do think we do have a lot more to discuss. I think it's pretty awesome to be able to talk to these different diverse people from all different areas of the game, especially now. We did have a couple of guests who couldn't make it today, but I would love to do this show again with our other guests because they have other perspectives, because they are also in the gaming space, but in a different area of the gaming space. What I'll make sure I do is I will have Chase, Keith, Yen, and Rels, all the information in the description down below on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple iTunes, do me a big favor, head over to lv1gaming.com or our YouTube so that you guys are able to check out their content. Go ahead.
And real quick, everybody, real quick, let everybody know where they can find your stuff. Chase.
At Chase Bethia on Twitter, chasebethia.bandcamp.com, chasebethia.com.
Keith.
You can find me on Twitter over at shadowhaxer.net, or sorry, Shadowhaxer, or you can find me over at the Outer Haven.
Yin and Real.
WhiteGuardianStudios.com or CelestialTier.com.
And on Twitter.
Bang. Oh, Twitter.
At
Oh, yeah,
Yin
Yin and Real.
Yin and Real on almost everything except for YouTube, which is Yin Yamina.
So at Yin and Real.
Yeah, at Yin and Real.
All right, Fame. Send us
It's
off.
been great. With all that said, thank you guys for rocking with us once again. I'm bringing this panel back, and I'm making it bigger. I'm making the roundtable bigger. We're gonna go longer because I think there's a lot left in this conversation that we really couldn't get to in an hour and a half. But that wrap it up button is being slammed down right now to the ground, and we must respect the wrap it up button. You guys have a great day. We'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Oh, wait a minute. I'm hosting.